Boo!
Ah!
Welcome back to this week's podcast, spookiest edition.
One of the spookier editions. I imagine it'll be spooky for the rest of the year.
Possibly for the rest of time. Today's podcast is going to be brought to you by general spookiness, but also being the least racist person in the room and demons.
This week's podcast is also brought to you by, biblical womanhood and troll severance.
I am your host, Madison.
I am your other host, Jesse James. This is our 50th episode, so happy Halloween to everyone.
Do we know when we probably did our first episode in was it January of last year? We're probably getting close to 1 year.
Yeah, it would be cool if I could remember. Let me click this file down here that has all of the podcasts encased within it.
I feel like it was maybe in the... I don't know.
My computer says working on it, so you're going to have to wait just a second.
Oh. All right, that's fine.
Our test video, which is our first video on our channel, is from... Oh. Well, that's not... Couldn't possibly be true. No, I mean that is the time frame that it must have happened. According to this, we are working from a October 12th for our first recording of last year.
Oh.
So.
Oh my. Okay.
So we are past the year mark. We just aren't. We have missed some chunks, it appears. Well, our test was a while before we actually started up. So, but like our two-parters and stuff were coming up on Christmas, it looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do remember the Pornhub episode.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some end-of-the-year extravaganzas rolled into there. People see this? I hope so. You know, writing backwards on your own forehead in face marker is...
hard.
It's not the first time I've done it, but it is the sloppiest time I've done it. So, you know.
I can still read it. Actually, it's pretty legible, even with the 20 pixels that I can see it in. But
well, I did use I have a two-sided makeup pen, and one side is a chisel tip, so I was able to actually write it in.
That's handy.
Weirdly, writing on my face, I partially had to use my left hand to do it, but writing I do with my right hand. Don't know why the fuck that would be, but...
I actually do a very similar thing. Every time I do my makeup, I don't know if people are the same, but I write with my left hand. Mm-hmm. But anytime I'm doing eyeliner or eyeshadow, I have to do it like that with that hand of that side. Like I can't do this. It's got to be the right hand.
I wonder... My camera is positioned strangely so you can see my reading area, which might change some of the surprise of... Hold on, stand by. Oh! Exterior of the police station, night, Bella's POV.
Oh.
2 attendants hoist a metal gurney into an ambulance. On it, Waylon's dead, white, bloody, bare feet poke out from under a sheet, resting at a disturbingly unnatural angle. Off Bella, chilled. Smash 2, flash popped Edward's black eyes, Flash pop to Edward's cold white hand. Flash pop to 5 colons. Slow motion, beautiful and white. Flash pop to Waylon's twisted white feet. Interior, Bella's room, on Bella, at night. As she turns on the light, she hears a snap. Outside the window, she rises, digs into her purse for the pepper spray Charlie gave her, and goes to the window. She looks out. All she sees is the wind blowing hard, but she's rattled. She closes the curtains, then reaches for the book she bought earlier in Port Orchard. Reader's note. She thumbs through, laying the pepper spray within reach. Insert the book. I guess that's a camera move. Quill stories and art. As she leafs through, we see photos of ancient carved masks, comical, menacing, haunting. Then she stops on a photo of a white mask with black eyes and a row of sharp teeth. The inscription reads, "The Cold One." Bella quickly goes to the computer and Googles "Cold One." Several beer ads appear. Frustrated, she closes the pop-ups, revealing a link to "The Cold One," a Potemkin. Intercut between Bella and the computer screen. Several pictures begin loading. The seductive Potemkin, with his ice blue skin, devouring his victims in tapestries, engravings, paintings, creatures beautiful and horrific. Craven, skeletal demons attacking villages, perfectly sculpted predators, luring innocent maidens. It's all murder, blood, sexuality. Then several words leap out in quick succession. Speed, strength, cold-skinned, immortal, and finally, blood drinker. Then we land on a picture of a handsome man biting a woman's neck. Flash pop to the same picture as it momentarily comes alive, but now it's Edward biting Bella's neck, blood dripping. Back on Bella, she reels back from the computer in utter disbelief. It's not possible.
Oh no.
A scene. So I rewatched Twilight yesterday.
Ooh. So you're really in the spooky mood.
No, I'm not. Twilight fucking sucks. Twilight is awful. Holy shit.
I don't know why you would think that at all.
So Twilight, I haven't seen it in years, but I saw them all together. So I remember all the big exciting bits. I remember a lot of the like melodrama leading into like pseudo dialogue and a lot of like music choices. But on this podcast, I'm going to discuss the real movie and several other movies. I needed to talk about that scene today, so I wanted to read how the script read it. And also, the script, as I found with another movie I watched and 2 movies we watched, but another movie I watched, the script is not so much what they used for the movie. Anyway, I think
you found the scripts to the movies that we watched?
No scripts will ever exist for that. But if I find one of those scripts, I will be reading it in its entirety in an audiobook format. So what is this drink that you've been struggling with for today?
So yeah, I was going to make the drink that I talked about making last week.
Okay.
Which was just like I wanted to make a hot buttered rum, but I didn't have brown sugar or like some of the ingredients. So I just used like an apple cider packet is like the base, and then added like butter and rum and spices to that. And it turned out
that's bitter and somewhat sour and a little bit sweet. So that's sort of a weird buttery flavor so far.
It was really good. Like actually, when I made it, also I added. It was mostly sweet because it was like packet apple cider, so it was really sweet. And then a little bit of like salty from the butter, and I added a little bit of salt too. And then like some nutmeg and other spices, I think, and also a little bit of like caramel syrup. in the bottom, and that was really good. And I was gonna make it for this time too, because I thought I had apple cider left, but I didn't. And that's kind of the base of the thing.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. So what I tried was to use some like coconut black oolong tea as my base.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which
And
I mean has been interesting.
it worked?
It's better now. It's still not what I would say good, but it's
Okay.
drinkable. I need to, I think, perfect this like buttered rum, like the batter kind of thing that you mix together for it. That
Yeah.
I think I need to figure out because I don't know. It seems like I'm just constantly having to stir it, which is probably normal, but it's also, I don't know. Just...
Well, if you have a good recipe for hot buttered rum to make at home, or you're my mother, wink, wink.
Wink.
What's the email that they can send that recipe to, or questions?
Please send your recipes and questions to itsthisweekspodcast@gmail.com. They will be much appreciated.
All one word. Yes,
Yeah.
because I would like a copy of that as well.
I think it's important heading into the
I haven't
holidays.
been able to force my friends and/or family to eat things in a long time, so once we have some sort of vaccination situation, I'm probably gonna have to do a lot of that.
Yeah. We have a lot of foods to make up for.
Yeah. And that's your only thing today, right?
Actually, I do have one other thing that I'm very excited to share. I found these at the store today. Are you familiar with Tim's potato chips?
Hold on just a second. Let me check if I'm familiar. No, I'm not. Based on what I have, I'm not. I'm
Don't
really liking what that's called.
I know. That's these are the Sasquatch surprise Tim's chips, like special edition. Uh I guess they're made in the Cascades or something. So this is like their ode to the PNW.
Okay.
Which actually segues into my costume because I grew fully out of my costume, like so much. It was depressing. It
Wait,
was
what was?
upsetting.
Do you mean your costume that wig went with?
Yeah, the Ray
How?
costume.
It's only been
Well,
like a year and a half.
so I guess to my own credit, it was very small when I got it,
Okay.
and I think I remember like even then like not being able to like zip it up all the way or something because it was like it was kind of like a last minute decision to do the thing and to really commit to it, and I didn't really want to buy the costume, and so I bought it last minute. Anyway, long story short, I'm pretty sure it was small to begin with,
Okay.
but it was alarming. So I have instead done PNW Ray.
I mean,
So I have.
the new Ava stuff that's been going out, that's probably a costume, honestly, at some point. They have a lot more like we're hanging out teens, and then when spoilers, they all are horribly murdered at some point towards the end. Some characters multiple times. Um, uh, you care more about them. I'm guessing that's the idea because it's a show about man's inhumanity towards man. It's the good
Yeah.
version of Attack on Titan, which I'm sure there are lots of nerds who would disagree, but suck it. Um,
Anyway.
Based on your costume, I would imagine you wouldn't be offended by that. Also, anime beefs are the least important beefs on the planet.
I do not care about them.
Nope.
What I do care about is these potato chips, which are very good.
I'm gonna need a review of what's going on with them.
Oh, you want to know what Sasquatch flavor is?
Not when you say it like that, but yes, I still kind of want to know.
Because there's no flavor listed on this bag other than Sasquatch Surprise. So
yeah.
It is essentially a mixture between a barbecue chip and it tastes like it has a little bit of a malt vinegar sort of twist.
Okay.
So they're actually really good, but the Sasquatch flavor is not one that I would immediately be drawn to.
I haven't had Tim's in a while because until my teeth are fully rebuilt from being broken, I don't really want to eat, even if it's not something that the sort of like they're not ceramic, but you know what I mean. The polymer like almost real teeth that I have partially done but not completely finished. I don't really feel comfortable when I bite into something super hard with them.
Yeah, Tim's are pretty intense chips.
Would you hold that bag up once more? Special batch 44. Okay. Well, we are PNW works well with your costume.
Yes. That was a happy
so
accident.
I have a number of things. So I did pumpkin carving on Saturday. So carved a pumpkin. I don't know if I sent you the pictures yet, but I will. And it's dead now. The pumpkin's gone. I killed it
already.
And it is because I was making it into roasted pumpkin for curry. And this stuff is extremely good. And that's also part of my snack corner.
Nice.
I also roasted all of the seeds. And I'll give a quick rundown because I talked to a bunch of people after I made it. And most of them had not ever made pumpkin, even if they'd made seeds, which was a sometimes thing. So the pumpkin is real easy. I made a jack-o'-lantern out of a sugar pie so I could have a little less trouble making this part. You can see it's kind of got like differential textures on it, even in, let's say, more natural lighting. So the spices on this, essentially, so make your jack-o'-lantern like you normally would, but like clean out the inside, and that's like step one for me. I didn't put a candle in it at any point because I didn't really want to have that action, so I had like a light in it instead. Clearly, I have lights around, so that's how I ended up doing it.
Some light to spare.
Then you, when you're done with the jack-o'-lantern, usually it's better to do it as like an indoor jack-o'-lantern because, like, you know. Then take like a carrot peeler and just peel the outside of the pumpkin. Like you don't have to do the top or the bottom because you're not going to eat the stem bits, but just peel it like you would anything else. It actually, sugar pie pumpkins peel really easily, and since they're so big, you don't do what I always do and nick your hand because peeling things for whatever reason is my like kryptonite. And then I usually cut it into strips once it's peeled, and then chop those strips into little hunks that look exactly like this, essentially, but are a little bit bigger and fuller. Put it on something that you can use something that's like a you can use a disposable, which is what I usually do, like large tin, like aluminum kind of thing. Or if you fully line and like lift the edges on tinfoil, you can put it on something else. Uh, the biggest part of cooking it that is sort of a problem is that the first step, once it's sliced and laid out, is and I always put it like the side that's convex up, so it can hold stuff. You pour just sort of a light to medium drizzle of maple syrup over the whole thing. So that is what ends up sort of glazing into it. And it also pulls the spices like onto it instead of it just sort of all singeing at the top. The problem is if there's a hole in the tinfoil or if you're using like a permanent sheet or something, if you're not used to it, cooked syrup basically turns into super glue. So it'll like it'll cook down, and then like I've had this happen. I had a little bit of it happen even this time. There was a little hole, and it gets through the tinfoil, and it will like fully adhere bits of the tinfoil to the sheet in a way that you would like. In the past, I've had to use a razor blade to get under it. Like it's very in there. Because of the tinfoil, if it's smoothed out, it can be really hard to abrase it off without just powdering the tinfoil itself, which isn't really what you want in a kitchen. Anyway, once you've got it glazed with syrup, also nice thing for both of these, you can cook them both somewhere in the 350 to 375 range, and you're good. The pumpkin, you want to cook for about an hour, and the spices I used are black pepper, a little bit of salt, a fair amount of cayenne pepper, and cinnamon. For for the seeds, I did about the same thing, but so I put them in a bowl. I don't clean the seeds. I leave pumpkin bits on them. I'll show you kind of what that means. Here's one that's a couple of seeds together. Hopefully the recorded version, you'll be able to see it a little more. So there's like a lot of stuff on it. Some of them are cleaner. This one looks more like what you would think of as like your standard seed. But what that is, I'm going to eat this chunky one. What that is in a bowl first, and I put what's the, trying to remember my nut oils. Walnut oil. So I just kind of pour walnut oil over it so I can like mix it up into that. And you don't want it to be like swimming in it. You just want it to kind of coat it.
Yeah.
Sort of the same thing you're doing with the syrup on the other end. You mix them all together with just the oil until they're like shiny, but not like just wet from pumpkin guts. And then I usually, as a base, I always add salt and pepper, just because like seeds tend to be a little bit, like they have an earthy flavor, but they're not going to have a lot of other stuff going on. And that's a good base, kind of like you would with an egg. You just kind of want to pop the flavor up a little bit. But then for this, I was trying something with like a slightly sweeter pumpkin seed, which I ended up with. For the rest of the oil mixing part, I added probably, I don't know, well over a tablespoon of cayenne pepper because I want it to be a little spicier. And then a bunch of dried rosemary and a decent amount of cinnamon, because this part's getting it prepped up, but the last part is where it kind of gets sweeter. But I like sweet and herbal mixed together, and that's sort of what I was going for with this. Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say those have a really nice crunch to them.
Yeah. Well, you want to cook them pretty hard. Like, they're obviously more singed on the herbs than they are anything else. But because I leave the guts on, or, bits of it, I don't wash them. I leave them sort of gross, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I have the actual guts and puree type stuff that I could make something else with in the fridge still. But once you have the cayenne pepper, for me, I wanted cinnamon and rosemary. But like, whatever it is you want to put on it, they go in the probably 350 is good for them. A little lower for the seeds than for the pumpkin because they're much thinner. And I was planning to do it for an hour, but here, at least, it only took probably 45 minutes to get it where I wanted it to be. You don't really have to flip them or anything. Like, the seeds themselves are getting dried out, but the stuff on them is going to singe either way. And if it doesn't really matter. It's just pumpkin business. So once you have that part, you kind of want to like brush them off of the sheet and put them into a bag. I used to use paper bags, but I use Ziplocs for stuff lately, and it works well for this. One of the things that I like, especially with things that I'm trying to get to be spicy in a way that is like flavorful, is sort of, the most American sounding thing ever for this. But I added probably like a half a cup or a third of a cup, somewhere in that range, of finely powdered sugar to it and shook that together.
Oh.
I shook it for a while, but that is why it has this sort of like slightly dusty appearance. It's definitely not enough to actually like make it sweet, but it will pull out that set of flavors and make it sort of I don't know, more of a popping flavor and less of a like culinary like it makes it for people who are trash as well. And it really does make the cayenne taste a little more like a little less immediate, but a little more like slowly burning in, which is what I want. If I want immediate, I want just a pile of wasabi. But if I want something to be like spicy and linger, like that's how I want these to taste. So that's my pumpkin corner. How?
That sounds pretty good. I'm jealous.
It was very good. Pumpkin is one of those things that really is very appealing during the fall, but less so other times. And hot, savory pumpkin is excellent for like fall food. It goes really good with rice. It goes like I've been having it as a curry. It mixes pretty well in things that have like a chicken base, so you can like. My roommate made chicken curry, but it's like a heavy vegetable chicken curry, and I've been sort of using that as like over the top curry under rice in the middle. These guys.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
And the texture, for people who haven't eaten this stuff before, is like the texture of a like a Japanese bean like pastry. It has that like it's definitely got like thickness, and it doesn't fall apart or anything, but it is soft to eat. Like it's a nice not offensively soft texture. And that's always what I'm afraid of with pumpkin, is if you cook it too long, it starts to kind of Like you can see it's halfway kind of aerated and halfway thick, how it ended up. That's part of what the syrup is helping with too, is keeping it from like just turning into like mush.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a lot of talk about pumpkin. But I've been very happy with this stuff, and you know, I also have this cider because uh, getting wet today seems like the right way to go.
I think so. Yeah.
And now I have some other snacks because it is a snack heavy Halloween. I don't trust opening
Spooky snack
these.
time.
This one I'm mostly going to be giving to Nick because sort of on the same. These scissors are trash. These are trash scissors. These don't do shit. How are these even?
They look like the
Look at
pair of
this.
scissors that everybody's family has, but like doesn't throw away.
Look at the. I'm keeping it fully closed.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Garbage. I asked for the scissors and I received the scissors. Anyway, here is number one.
Oh.
Cookie Pop Oreo popcorn. Popcorn is the hardest and smallest thing to read in the thing.
Yeah, I didn't even see it.
Cookie Pop Oreo. um, so I'm not a popcorn person, and also this is not a thing that I want to throw at my teeth constantly for the same reason as I wouldn't get a bunch of Tims. I'm already pushing it with my other thing. But I do want to try these at least because they look bad mostly. And I know that Nick likes popcorn. So I'm going to just preemptively toss those over there.
I am curious to hear what this sounds like. I'm a big popcorn fan, but I don't tend to like sweeter popcorn combinations unless they're salty to kind of balance it.
And the red light I have going, it is a little hard to tell, but they are orange with black flecks, which I appreciate.
Okay.
There we go. Now you can kind of see
Yeah.
what's going on there. I think if these were those popcorn puffs, oh, well, this shows it. This fucking candy bundle. If this was on those popcorn puffs they make that are just like a weird Cheeto made out of like essentially the same things Cheetos are, but the puffy Cheetos, I would be into this. Honestly, I like the color. Orange is my favorite color. Orange and black is always good. This just tastes like Oreos, but it's popcorn, so.
That is my least favorite application of popcorn, is when popcorn is just a vehicle for another flavor. I want popcorn to taste, I want it to always be salty. That's just what I want.
Honestly, I think popcorn's fantastic as a flavor, but I also think that the texture of popcorn can change to a nightmare so quickly that it's never worth it for me if it's just a popped piece of popcorn, unless I pop it and I like inspect it to make sure it's all going to be even. For whatever reason, I just can't deal with popcorn as a like. I just want handfuls of it. That's not my deal. So that's unsurprising, but like I would suggest it if you want a dessert popcorn that tastes good. It has that what I would describe as brown flavor of Oreo cookie. That sort of like it's chocolate, but it's not like chocolate. It's like weird chocolate sugar pastry kind of flavor. But my not Sasquatch option I have here is these apple cider vinegar potato chips.
I saw those. I almost got those in the store. You have to tell me. if they're good.
Let me use
I very
these
nearly got them.
terrible scissors to open them. Also, do not purchase if bag is open or torn. I'm cutting that part off. All right. It smells like a vinegar and salt chip. My apologies to anybody who doesn't want to see me eat chips delicately, but that is because I have to take a lot more time between my dental visits. That's just how I'm going to do it, because I don't want to have to get thousands and thousands more dollars of dental work. And
this makes sense.
It was supposed to be done the first month of the year, and then it couldn't be. So, fuck everyone.
Is it vinegary enough?
It's a lighter vinegar, but it is vinegar. Get a little.
I really like the flavor of apple cider vinegar. Like, my mom actually does a thing that I don't know if this is real or not, but she has like a little shot glass and she takes a little shot glass of apple cider vinegar every night before bed.
So that is a thing. That is what kombucha's for as well.
Yeah.
Kombucha, so my family used to do that. Kombucha mushrooms just to make a slightly flavored with what you flavor it with vinegar. And they eat the sugar that you toss in there, and then they ferment and slightly carbonate what's under them. And then, like, you would just use a little spigot on like a big iced tea kind of thing, and get a little shot of it once a day, and that was what it is. That's how it's actually meant to be used, though, for like stomach health and all that stuff. The version of it that's here's a 20-ounce bottle of weird sugar kombucha it's just people who are too afraid to take a shot of vinegar. The version of that my friend does or did was she would eat a salad with a full shot of apple cider vinegar, or just like open the bottle and like wah over the top every day. But like, I would actually suggest that if people aren't into the idea of drinking vinegar, because like it's an excellent addition to like greens and like carrots and stuff like that. Also, she would add like Anaheim peppers and things like that, which go really well with that kind of flavor. I would suggest these chips, though. These are actually they do have clearly the apple cider vinegar flavor, but they almost feel a little more brittle than these chips usually do. And the flavor is a little less intense than regular like sea salt and vinegar, but it does leave that apple cider vinegar taste in your mouth, which is kind of what I want anyway.
That sounds pretty good. The chips, just looking at them, look like the texture of a Pringle.
They're not.
Reason.
They're the texture of a kettle chip, but they're they feel like they were if this makes sense. Kettle chips feel like they're bigger, harder chunks almost. These feel like they were blended down a little finer before they made the chips.
Okay.
So that might make it look more Pringle-y, but they're not. They're definitely further in the spectrum towards kettle chips still. They're good.
Okay.
But they're also, I don't think that if they are slices of potato, they're half the width than they would be for other ones, which could be what they are. They're not going to tell me.
They sound good either way. I'll have to pick those up next time I'm doing chip shopping.
You should. I'm having some very water diluted coffee from earlier, but I do have just nasty, dirty Halloween juice later. And this is Seattle cider, if anybody's interested. They are pretty good. And
yeah, I like that cider.
I'll give Seattle cider a shout out. I think they're decent. I don't have my big water container, so I might have to get up and grab that in the near future. Anyway.
Oh, I also have these very nice crunchy grapes.
A good crunchy grape is very, very good to have around. I wish grapes kept longer because I love grapes, but I eat them a little bit slow, and I already end up taking probably the last handful or a little more than a handful sometimes out of those boxes of baby arugula I buy, because there's no like half-size bag that I can get, because I usually eat them either like chips or I'll which, you know, just kind of rabbit eat it. I think I've done that on the podcast. Or I'll put them into like sandwiches and stuff. And
yum.
There's just not really a version of that I can get that I don't have to throw the last bit outside. I figure rabbits don't really care if it's like a little bit slimy. I imagine they're probably somewhat okay with it, but somebody eats it, whether it's squirrels, rabbits, birds, whatever. And I haven't seen anything get sick or die out there. So my slightly unsatisfying greens are probably fine for them.
Yeah, I think they're just happy to have it.
But grapes go bad quick. I'm not a fan of quarantine grapes. I look forward to a lot of foods like bananas and stuff coming back on my menu when things allow, because I don't want to keep taking multivitamins so that I can get potassium. Anyway. Stupid. I don't know. Do you have any opinions on the debates or lack of debate on any specific topics?
I mean, I don't know. I know that was one of my topics, being the least racist person in the room. I don't know that I have anything really to say about it, other than that sucked. I really liked that he went with "I'm the least racist person in the room" instead of "I am not racist at all."
Yeah. It has
At least he's like kind of realistic. Like he knows the universe that he's in.
But also, like, there were plenty of people who that should probably not be said in front of there. It seems pretty stupid.
Yeah. That was a winner.
Also, he said it a few times, if I remember right. Whatever.
Yeah, he referenced it later, like after he said it. I don't know. It didn't really make any difference. I don't think any of the debates really would. I think actually the only debate that would have made any difference was the VP debate, and that was just bad. Also,
the only lasting thing from the VP debate are gifs of Kamala Harris and The Fly.
And The Fly, yeah.
So,
yeah. So
we win again.
Yeah. Yeah, no real news there other than just it was entertaining to watch, I guess.
I guess.
But also sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of
I
that stuff
sent in my
sucks.
ballot last week. So, or was it last? It might have been the week. I don't know. Some measure of time ago.
I
I
think
put it in the mail.
I got mine out like a day or two after I got it. I think 2 weeks ago now. I imagine you probably were in a similar timeline over there. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, no. My roommate tracked his, and it's been counted with that little stub. We get that in Washington. I don't know if you guys do. I assume you do.
I
Um,
think yeah, there is a way to like check the status of it. I haven't gone on to check it, but I should probably do that soon.
I know
Um,
some of the numbers of voting increases for early voting were pretty ridiculous. Uh,
yeah, that's what I heard for like Florida. I think especially had a huge turnout for like young voters. So
the
that's
comparative numbers on early voting was like this time last election. I want to say it was like 7,000 votes were in, and this year like 250,000 were in. Like that's significant. That's a, a matter of increase that you can at least see. So
yeah, that
if
is
that's
cool.
kept at least a tiny bit consistent across the country, hopefully we don't end up like I know there's going to be weird shit that happens. Nick's taking the week off. I know some other people who are like kind of hiding during the actual election stuff because it's probably going to be a shitty week. Uh, One of the things that happened this week is um, Bellevue got a stay in your house order alarm over the phones, which I'm not in Bellevue, but I'm close, so I guess I get it too. Um,
What for? Just like COVID or
no, it was
election related?
there was my understanding based on where I keep tabs on for like police action and stuff, local stuff, is that there were uh, there were Trump protesters of some kind making noise, and it looked like counter protesters, which was just a bunch of like the Seattle protesters. Uh,
Yeah.
they're counter protesting, and then one of the protesters had a gun. I don't believe any significant violence happened. I don't think there were even like major things that occurred, but they just did a like go home order. Like I
Mm.
don't know. It's frustrating because this close to the election, I don't trust anybody having weapons out anywhere. Like
Yeah.
people need to be able to go outside and do their shit. And the fact that that happened on, want to say it was a Friday night, uh, really seems like a big voting night kind of thing. Like, just we don't need extra shit going on. Just fucking be normal. uh,
Mm.
Also, man, what's his name? Sucks. It's a W name. Uh, anyway, the recent killing in like the Philadelphia area, I believe. Um, Walker, I think.
Mm.
So more like large scale protests in Philly, and that just happened, and I've seen like maybe 2 or 3 people uh, that are not just people in the area sending stuff, talking about it. I, by virtue of having a lot of family and a lot of like artist acquaintances all over the country, it's very quick for me to see that shit on like social media. But like I talked to some people who had not heard about it yet, and it was a pretty
Yeah.
big car burning. Like there are videos from I believe last night of protesters getting the police to retreat. Like literally people chasing the police down the street to like
Wow.
have to regroup with people. And I think we need to have those videos up. Like if people really want to talk about how all these protesters are so evil and all about the wrong things, then why don't we get the same videos emasculating the police that we get of people being shot in the street? Like we need to have some amount of like anti-authority something, because they're being pieces of shit and they're following shitty people. And if we can't show their losses, like what are we doing?
Right.
We just have to talk about how the protesters are so evil and assume that they're being taken care of. Like that's the messaging, but that's not really what's happening. And a lot of videos from other countries' protests right now are very much not police are overwhelming people. Like there are a ton of people out there and the police can't do shit about a lot of them. So, I mean, if that kind of stuff matters to you and you are upset that you haven't been seeing those kinds of images because it seems very one-sided the way it's being presented to us, you should probably do some more in-depth searches, because there's a lot of small wins out there to find if you actually want to.
Yeah, I can't remember if this was a podcast I was listening to or something that I read, but I had heard sometime this week about interviews of people from the Seattle Police Department that were resigning because they felt like the city was not like backing them, or they were upset that they were getting defunded, or like defunding was a talking point or something. Yeah. Just crybabies.
They want us.
The city wasn't.
They want us to not get a fully funded pension from the moment we're hired and before we're hired. That doesn't seem like a huge deal. That shit is stupid. But also
it was nice to hear that some of them were like, it's working. It's working. Like the protesters, because they specifically, I can't remember the name or really details, but one of the people that was interviewed specifically said that, like, I cannot continue to come to work every day and deal with protesters because I feel like we're not getting funded enough to deal with them, which, like, okay, bullshit, first of all.
All we have is like a bunch of tanks and bayonets and like, fuck off.
Yeah, we don't have enough army supplies to deal with like these young people.
Well,
not all young people.
What the actual complaint is, and like you can say all you want about Joe Biden positively in like the lead up to this election. I don't give a shit. We need to switch the president, but it is important to remember that his plan for the police is to give them more money. That's it. That's his whole plan, is to give them more money. And the reason why police think they need more funding is to have more police hired. So when they talk about funding, everybody takes it as like, well, I mean, but they seem well equipped, so the protesters must be doing all kinds of terrible shit. They're not. It's that they want
those Antifa super soldiers out there.
Our amazing police are tired, and they want more people to cover more shifts and be able to not be tired all the time. But fuck them. Like, that's exactly the kind of tactics that we have to have in order to keep this going. And in a lot of ways, the Joe Biden plan of giving them more money is specifically to fix the problem of not having enough police to rotate in shifts and shit. So, like, no, we shouldn't give them any more money. They should do their job if they want to, but, like, we need to find a way to get them to do what the people want and not what all of the money decides they should do, because that's stupid. That doesn't help anybody. But, I mean, in the wake of all the Bellevue stuff, it was just a big reminder of everybody with money believing firmly that if you damage somebody else's money, it is violence, which is just stupid. Uh, it needs to have context. You can't just say like you burned one of my 4 cars and so I should be able to shoot you. Like that's not real anything.
Yeah.
That's not a reason for shit. But it has been a lot of people realizing that this year, so that's good.
Yeah, that
As a,
is something.
it's a bit of a bummer, but being able to point your fucking finger at the relatives who are garbage is a good thing to be able to do now. Uh,
It's a bummer, but it's good to know where people actually stand on these things. I watched in the last couple of days, some YouTube channel had put together this like um video titled like "Do all Democrats think the same?" or something, and they have people like line up according to
there's
where.
just a few bad apples.
Yeah, just a few, but they asked the question to this group of people, what they thought, like whether they agreed or disagreed with having that we have to defund the police.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much almost all of them either were like disagree or like somewhat agree, like pretty for the most part negative. And
Yeah.
then each of them individually explained their position that like, no, I don't think we need to defund the police, but we do need to give more money to social programs. And I'm like, where do you think we're proposing that money comes from?
Yeah.
When they all like essentially one after one were like, no, I don't think we should defund the police, but functionally, yes, I do think we need to actually defund the police. I'm just not making the connection in my brain.
Yep.
That was frustrating.
It's weird. Anything else, any other conversation that people have, it's always where do we find the money? What isn't working that does the same thing? It's always where you go. It's like our downtown museum doesn't have enough money to like keep going. Like what do we do to make that money appear? We get rid of these programs that aren't working and we do stuff that the people want. Like it's not only what we do with everything in like regular politics, it's what we do with capitalism. Like
Yeah.
that's what you do with money apparently. Also it it is a reminder that what people who are reasonable think of capitalism is socialism. Like people's decisions influencing where the money goes is exactly socialism. Like there's not really much more of a definition of people decide where people's money goes than that. Uh,
Mm.
I don't know. It is a lot of business. There's also a lot of like individual problems that people have to deal with because we also have to have conversations about housing, employment, all
Yep.
that stuff. We're getting to the point where if this president, which they won't, but if the next president doesn't really seriously look at things like having either a change structurally in how we do utilities, then they're going to have to start looking at something like a UBI because one of those things has to happen. And if like regulations and stuff aren't getting put on any corporations and we're not having like our environment regulated, like
Mm.
the path we have to take after that, like especially with the environment, has to be more communist. Like it's this weird holdout of like either you can make everything terrible for everybody who's below you or a certain amount below you and make it worse and worse and then it turns into Russia or France or any other place where there's a revolution, which nobody wants, or we can start working on things that actually change our system. Like I'm pro-socialist and the further we go leaning more towards communist ideas because we have to in the future where we don't deal with our environment. Like
Mm.
eventually we're not going to be able to have like people with things that they just have because we're going to have to actually share everything at a certain point. or we're fucked. But right now, we could have a future where everybody still owns things and still has like lots of like selfish needs being met in a like physical and monetary way. But as our environment degrades, it will be refugee crises that populate all the places where we can have people, and it'll be moving cities. Like you're going to have to start pushing cities into places like Japan have been essentially preparing for shit like that for a long time. But they've also had media about refugee crises since like the 70s, because that's when people started actually really seriously talking about the environment and how fucked up it was getting, including people in the US, but everybody started fucking lobbying for oil companies at that point. So I don't know. It's just shooting everybody in the foot who has money as well. Like they're going to have a better time if they just say, okay, we'll pay taxes normally and just live very, very comfortable lives in giant houses instead of trying to crush everybody else. Like it's not a hard decision if you're thinking about it reasonably, unless you think that Jesus will save you. I guess that's the other option.
Yeah, that is.
There's a Sasquatch roaming around this room. Sasquatch. Try these.
I hear it.
Okay, what? What?
They're good. You'll want to have like 2 or 3 to get the flavor to come in, but they're nice.
I hear the growls and moans of the Sasquatch. Oh, please, Sasquatch.
Vinegar.
Well, they're apple cider vinegar. They're light on the vinegar, though.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like, flavor overall. Pleasant. Like, more pleasant than I would have.
There's a lot of pacing, so I'm curious how the
I
audio.
can tell.
It's put on your room scale, because everything's going to be roving around.
You can hear him walking around the room.
Sasquatches like to keep moving. That's a big aspect of how they work. Were you planning on asking me a question, Sasquatch?
I'm getting food somewhere.
Oh.
I haven't figured out yet where yet.
Okay. Well, let me know when you find out. I'll keep my phone where I can see messages about food. I think that's a positive review on the chips. There's popcorn in here if you want it. I opened it, tried it, and now that popcorn that tastes like Oreos is open for business. We had a day of not opening the popcorn, so I could open it here.
What on earth? What?
It's our secondary review of the popcorn. What do you think of it? Tastes like Oreos?
Yes.
We have exultation.
Yes.
Yes!
That's way better than I would have thought. Looking at that bag. Looking at that bag, I was a little scared.
Oh, because it says popcorn in imperceptible letters?
No, it's like cookie pop, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's cookie pop.
Popcorn.
Oreo. Oh, Nicholas. Did I leave my water container over here? Would you grab it off of my cooler fan next to my bed area?
Nicholas?
Biblical womanhood.
Biblical womanhood beckons you. Nicholas?
Thank you. Nope, don't.
Everything, don't worry about it.
That's why I held my hand out flat. It's cool. I only have 4 coasters, and I have to rotate some stuff out of it. It's fine.
How life should be.
Honestly, yeah. I saw some early footage of PS5, sort of off topic from everything. That shit looks cool. I won't own one for probably a couple of years, but I'm excited for the future of video games.
I have not seen the ads. Is there like any particular new features that are exciting too?
So apparently the controller is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I did hear. What's the new
So it
controller?
has, you know how the Switch has that like rumble stuff that everybody was really excited about? This is haptic feedback, like a whole controller. Apparently, according to stuff I was watching from places like Giant Bomb, limited stuff they can talk about, but they were able to simulate things like sand grit passing you with like the way that it was rumbling and stuff. Like it was sort of giving you these indications of texture as you were playing, which I think is probably the main things that I'm hearing about it are like, of course, it's a step up in like basic graphics. I think it has like ray tracing stuff so that light can reflect in a more complicated way. Larger file size, I'm sure, which is a mixed blessing for everybody. Now being a Switch owner, I'm actually extremely happy with the fact that almost everything on the Switch is like 10 or less gigabytes, because like for people who have to worry about internet, which we have, I mean, we have good internet here, but we have good American internet. And downloading something that's, let's say, 12 gigs, I did like I talked about it last week, but I went through and got stuff. That's the biggest thing I have is 12 gigs, and it's like a 2-hour download to get that. And I'm glad that it's not bigger downloads, because that's plenty of time to set aside to set something up. I have a larger SD card coming, and I have a case to keep it from being just fucking out. One of the things I noticed about the Switch, now that I have one, is that it's a long, flat... I mean, it's basically a tablet, but my tablet I always have on a stand, and I kind of have it tucked away in safe spots. I also, weirdly... the way that this stand works makes it almost impossible to drop because you have like a full handle on it. But the Switch is just a tablet with controllers that you could snap off if you wanted to, and completely ruin the whole system. And there's no, like, I think there's a place where you could buy and attach like a lanyard, but it's basically just you carrying around a plate and hoping you'll never or sit on it or anything. Thankfully, a ton of places make like $20 cases that hold it and games and the cord and all that shit. So that's what I'm getting. Very cheap. The card, it's like 128 gigs, which should hold everything I ever buy, honestly. And then a case was $20 each, and that's an okay expense for not breaking something that, number one, I didn't buy and I will not replace if it breaks. So that's my Switch update. Do you have bugs?
A fly around here.
Okay.
There's a bug that keeps buzzing into my eye.
It's gonna land on your hair, and then we're gonna have to meme it.
Probably. I'll be the next Mike Pence. It's really annoying.
Madison's the next Mike Pence. Put that on a stone. Put that on my.
Oh yeah. That's what I want. Also, this thing is unbearably itchy. I cannot believe I did this for a whole day at a convention like 2 years ago.
Conventions give you like super strength to wear horrible costumes, though. So
I think that's it, because you're just excited to be there and you're distracted by all the stuff. Because oh my god, I can't imagine It's just so itchy. Like, I cut this wig. I had to cut it into the shape when I got it.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of just like little fibers, just like sticking into the scalp, probably from that. But
That's kind of the only way that shit can work.
I'm pretty happy with how it turned out for the most part. Although I needed to trim this little fringe a little more so it was even. But
yeah, it's one side is face shaped more than the other.
Slightly. It's also, there are parts of it because I didn't pack it very well when I moved, so it was kind of crumpled. So there are parts of the head that are like, or parts of the hair that are just laying, I think, in the complete wrong place. So that's part of it. But oh well, it works. It's good enough. My hair's blue now.
I mean, I enjoy the wig. I
like it.
I would probably wear a lot of wigs if my head weren't giant, number one. And number two, if I had a lot of money, because a lot of wigs that are worth wearing are fucking expensive.
Yeah. I I think actually all of the wigs that I have are on the pretty cheap side, with the exception of this one. This is probably the most expensive one, and even then, I think it's a pretty cheap one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I to get like a good one, it is a good chunk of money. Probably about as much as I spent on the extensions, which is like maybe 40 in total.
I will say the big difference and why I think that this outfit works as well as it does is because the color of the hat and the wig work really well. Uh, I I couldn't see that ever working with the outfit because like the whole color scheme for everything is like navy color scheme, but it works really well with the laid back Northwest style of it. I've just been forwarded a food thing, which is why I seem distracted. So I'm going to lead people through what I'm ordering, but I'm ordering it through Nicholas. So, man, I've never heard of. Oh no, I guess I've heard of this place. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing on this menu.
What kind of food?
It appears to be. I mean, it appears to be Chinese food, but it looks specifically Taiwanese to me.
Yeah.
The design ethic, at least, looks like it's owned by Taiwanese people. For a second, you biting into that grape looked like you eating pumpkin seeds out of the side of my vision.
I wish.
I hope everybody appreciates that I'm just going to look like this until probably after work tomorrow, if I had to guess.
I appreciate it. I'm sure your coworkers will also.
Oh, yeah. They're used to me being sort of a living nightmare, so. Why the fuck is my phone about to die? Electronics are stupid.
Oh, agreed. I received my new phone today, so I'm back on the phone gang.
Oh, you're not getting glass splinters using your phone?
Not anymore.
That happened after the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Last week, Madison was like, ah! And then what had happened exactly?
I had shattered my phone screen, and I was swiping a little bit too vigorously, and I swiped a shard of glass into my thumb. A pretty small one. It wasn't a big deal. No blood. Not a lot of blood. So not a big deal. But
not a lot of blood. So It
Not a
was
lot of
fun.
blood. It was fine. And then a couple days later, Evan and I may have partied a little too hard, and then I dropped it again. So
Impossible.
I know that's really out of character for me.
I've never heard of you and Evan a party. I did get a fun call from you in the past to party, so I feel like I have
that was
only the
a
most mild
pocket dial.
idea. It was a good one. I've gotten plenty of pocket dials, but that was one of my favorites.
Was that when I was still in Kirkland, or was that here when I was here? I am having a hard time remembering.
That was right after you left. That was like maybe a month or something after you had left, I believe.
I think that was the night. Wow, everything like pre-COVID seems so like dreamy and nice. That was I think the night that we went out with Evan's little brother on his 21st birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that is correct. My phone just lost 40% of its battery with me doing that, so I'm going to do a different version of ordering. Nicholas! Nicholas, I summon you! My phone battery went like this, so I'm just going to tell you what's up. May I have pickled pork soup? Pickled vegetable pork soup. It's like the last thing on the appetizers. And
good.
I think just cumin lamb sounds good.
Okay.
It sounds like nice and like I can just sort of have that, maybe add some pumpkin on the side. That seems nice. The pumpkin I made.
Okay, I was like, is there pumpkin?
But yeah, I think that's it. I got really excited because I saw they had kiwi juice, but they only have kiwi strawberry juice, so strawberry ruins everything.
Trash.
It's a trash berry for trash people.
Garbage.
Thank you, Nicholas. Pickled vegetable pork soup. So here's an easier way. I believe that's the last appetizer, and I believe the other one's the first lamb dish.
Human lamb.
Yeah.
Come in lamb.
Come in lamb. Pickled vegetable pigsy pork soup.
Gotcha. Fancy bacon.
Fancy bacon pigsy porco rosso.
Porco rosso.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That all sounds very good.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to try it and probably eat it for multiple days. I have I get occasionally, especially right now while I'm not getting larger to-go orders through an app that I pay all of the delivery and extra fees and shit on. Because when Nick's here, he goes and gets it via car, so it saves us a lot of money. But one of the things I can go get for cheap is a fucking burger place, Shake Shack.
Ooh, yeah.
And I've discovered that if you get, it's a pretty small amount of money overall. It's like maybe $13, everything said and done. It's a burger, an order of fries, and an order of like fried chicken bits with honey mustard sauce. And you can easily take the fried chicken bits and half the fries as a meal and the burger and half the fries as a meal. So I want to say it's like on the edge of like 700-ish calories per meal that way, which is...
That's pretty decent.
That's a fine dinner for me. And I usually eat a handful of my slimy greens anyway, so it is a decent weight of food.
That sounds like a pretty good weight of food.
I think I just got another message that I'm going to try to give a thumbs up to before my phone dies. Anyway. Amy Coney Barrett can suck my dick.
Agreed. I second this.
That's how I feel about
Yeah.
biblical womanhood, which is
Vaguely haunted.
if you want to go find the inspiration for my look, just type these words into Google and read about it, because that's what we're in for in terms of opinions on one of our Supreme Court justices. It is essentially now a majority court of conservatives, which it already was. I've heard a lot of conservatives, which is the most frustrating thing ever, saying we need this because it's already too liberal, which is crazy, because it hasn't been. This is the third justice under Trump. They're all fucking crazy asshole conservatives. If we took every one of the justices that he put in out and put in moderates, it would still be evenly weighted-ish, and it wouldn't be liberal. So having these incredibly fucking conservative people on there is terrible for human rights, let's say.
Everybody.
Also, people are assholes because conservatism is getting a lot of like critique lately, and it's bad critique. People are talking about like conservatism as it relates to things like the Lincoln Project, which is absolute trash. And the Lincoln Project is still plenty conservative. They just want to supplant a lot of what people are doing with democracy, the Democrats, but democracy too. The idea of looking at the Lincoln Project, which is a group, it's a think tank that does a lot of like video and ad stuff. Everything they're doing is anti-Trump, which fine. For this election, fine. But keep in mind, after this election, let's say we have Biden, there's still going to be people who now have a reputation as being like the reasonable conservatives. And they're not. They just don't like Trump.
Yeah.
And it's also the Lincoln Project, and it's what the 1776 project or whatever the fuck it's called, are both just answers to the what is it, 1619? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Which is an actual like, let's try and talk about the real history of what's happened in the U.S. These other ideas are specifically talking about, well, let's just talk about the things we like, though. And that sucks. Like, it is the equivalent of somebody trying to bring up, like, Lincoln was not somebody who liked black people. He just wanted to send them all back to Africa and, like, be rid of them, essentially. It's not that it was bad that he wanted to, like, free the slaves. It sucks that he was also highly racist and just wanted to like take these people and essentially throw them into the ocean. Like, yep. Those are the kind of conversations we need to be having, not this fucking garbage about how, well, maybe the conservatives are right though, which is exactly the problem we've been talking about is coming, of having everything without somebody like a Bernie Sanders is just gonna drift to the right again. And if Biden gets in, which I hope he does, and it looks like he should, but who the fuck knows? I'm not going to jinx that shit. If he gets in, there's going to be a lot of people who either think that we fixed it or people who are just more willing to not do shit, partially because of a bunch of the government getting scuttled by the GOP before they leave, and partially because honestly, all of our parents are tired and don't want to deal with it. Like, that's a big part of it too. So we'll see. There's a lot of things that are obviously never not going to be moving in a progressive direction because it's literally survival. There is nothing that we can do about that. But I don't know. The longer these old rich pieces of shit can convince themselves they're not going to die, the worse it's going to get. So I want to start organizing giant art shows when we're able to be in public again that are just art shows about how everybody's going to die eventually, and maybe we should think about that, because that seems to be the missing component in all of this.
Yeah. That seems to be the missing link. I really do. There is one thing I do appreciate the Lincoln Project for, and it is exposing the like liberals and Democrats who repost their shit on Twitter as if it's like yay, good job. Like, if you're doing that shit, you're just outing yourself as a centrist, and you should knock it off. Just because they make funny ads about Trump doesn't mean that they're good people. They've just figured out like social media marketing. That's it.
Yep.
And they hired like maybe a slightly younger group of people to do it for them.
Barely. Most of the people who are in the Lincoln Project are old fuckers. They're the same pieces of shit who want to cram like crude oil down your throat and have everything in your state be based on like our old energy stuff and all of that shit. You want to talk about like
they're just hiring,
I meant
like,
that as hyperbole, but
people.
yeah, they're exactly the same conservatives that you don't like, but it's the same way that people are like, oh, look how cute George Bush Jr. is now, and just kind of ignore all the murder and the. So I do think that is something I was going to mention when we briefly talked about the debate stuff, but we didn't talk about the war. Like, how are we having presidential debates where we're like,
I didn't even think about that until now.
We've been at war for like 20 years, and we're having presidential debates where they literally just pretend it doesn't exist. Like,
don't even talk about that.
You should maybe think about that shit when you watch these debates as like, yeah, the police are an issue, but like we're not even talking about that shit. We're spending way more time talking about like how we're all pro fracking now.
Yeah, I'm gonna frack harder than the other guy.
Fuck. God.
Oh God.
Hard frack.
There was one singular, I won't say redeeming, positive moment for Biden in that debate, and it was the question, I don't remember the question. This might not even been the question, but Biden started talking about how a $15 minimum wage was necessary, and he actually stuck to it. Like, he's so wishy-washy on everything else, just say whatever to make the most amount of people happy, but he actually was like, this is something that needs to get done so that people get out of poverty, or whatever the line was. And Trump was like, no, we don't need that. And this is the only thing that Biden has come out and expressly said, this is how I'm different from him, other than like, I'm the least racist, but like, that's it. That's the only time he's ever like stuck to something. So
what do you need?
Spiciness information.
I don't care. Two. Doesn't matter. Mild. I can spice it if I need to. The amount of like good things that came out of Biden was pretty minimal, but there were things that he said that were worthwhile. I think that $15 minimum wage is a great place for people to get used to, because based on inflation, we should be at like, it's like $31 or $32 should be our minimum. Like 15 is half of it. That should be it. It's not going to save the people who are unemployed, and that's going to be most people who are like really in that position after COVID. We're not going to be able to hire a bunch of people back. Like, that's just not where we live. most of the places that are kind of closing down are closing down. And if they're not closing down, then they're just having people work in-house or at home. I mean, in-house at the store like I do without going anywhere, or in the house that you live in. And like for people who are losing their homes during this, there is nowhere to go to work. Like that's just not going to exist for a while for a lot of people. So like, I agree. That's a good thing. I think him being obviously more compassionate, even if I think it's misplaced in a lot of cases, is important. Like that is a president feature that we have to have. Like that is something you could say about a Bill Clinton and people who are like kind of shitty, but like at least they gave a shit about something having to do with people, even if it was misguided. And
yeah,
if Biden is willing to look at human beings like they matter if they're dead, that's something. But I desperately want people to just fucking talk about like war shit. I want people to talk about like actual political needs. I don't appreciate all of this like sort of dancing around, acting like the minimum wage stuff could be an argument from 1999. Like all of this stuff doesn't matter for the current day in the way that the things we need matter. And honestly, the like pro fracking, but we should do something about moving away from like the oil industry eventually. That's very 1999 too. Like we have progressed 0% in the last 20 years. And that's the majority of both of our lives. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do about like just sitting in stagnance, because I know things changed, whether it was bad or not, from like 70 to 90. Like that changed a lot. Like I don't think that there's a case that boomers can make that things have always been like this. Like they haven't. You just don't want to look at it. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. But I do have some other shit we need to talk about that's way more dire. It's maybe content warning. There's some dark shit in here because we watched The Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, and we also
Very
watched
dark.
some other shit, but we'll talk about that later. What's your overall feeling of this gritty documentary?
I really appreciated the kind of background knowledge that a lot of the people we watched with had from the Mike Myers perspective.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, was that an interesting career move.
Yeah.
And I understand the aftermath.
I didn't know that The Cat in the Hat was like part of the blowback that led to The Love Guru, but that makes total sense.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And then I think someone else also mentioned that like after he did that, those two things, he basically decided he doesn't really want to do acting anymore and is going to stick to like voice acting, which makes sense. I would also want that if my face had been CGI'd into that nightmare of a thing.
Yeah. Also, Shrek is about as old as our war in the Middle East currently, our current war. And Shrek is something that recently had its like 20 years of Shrek thing. So I learned a lot about Shrek recently. How you feeling over there? And the
new layers of existentialism just pulled back every day.
Just think about Smash Mouth; it'll be fine. Well, number one, they're rebooting Shrek soon, so get ready for that shit. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, my big hope is for a gritty cover of the fuck, what is that? It's not. Is it Steal My Sunshine? No, that I'm thinking of every other movie that has every other shitty year 2000 thing in it. Uh, what is that fucking song from Smash Mouth?
All Star.
Yes. Okay.
Steal My Sunshine.
Yeah. Well, because Rat Race had both in it. Anyway.
Okay.
They need to make like a slowed down, sad version of that for the new Shrek, like they do with all.
For every trailer now.
For every shitty video game trailer.
Like an R&B weird slow version of. Oh God, yeah, that's coming for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. For people who aren't aware or aren't like video game folk, the abundance of like. I think there was a Smells Like Teen Spirit slow female vocal like jazz lounge cover this year. That shit is terrible. There are some that I listen to that I like, but the fact that they're made is bad. People could make new music. Instead, they're just like,
yeah,
I made this slowed down cover of heart-shaped box.
It's a total like trope at this point. I feel like every single trailer, video game, or movie that I watch has that. Like I think the most infamous or egregious example that I can think of was like the what was it called with the Jared Leto as the Joker?
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, they did that. I can't remember the actual song, but it was that like classic slowed down sad version of a nostalgic song everybody knows.
So I have a extensive collection of bad or sad slowed down songs because I stupidly, being a music and art person, I care a lot about this very stupid topic. And I think I've tracked down where it comes from. I think I know why. Not the whole reason, but I think I know why we do it now. And I think the initial point where it comes from is Donnie Darko. Have you ever seen that movie? I'll take that as a no.
Who? Sorry, I lagged out.
Donnie Darko, the movie. It's Jake Gyllenhaal, and I think Maggie Gyllenhaal's in it too. And it's a movie about like a sad kid and the world being sort of the way the world is anyway. And hey, what if instead of living, you could die, but it also turned back time and made things better for everyone? It's like the proto like Twilight and all those movies version of like sad kid does sad action to make the world better kind of thing. Where like it doesn't really have romance. Like that's the main difference between it and other like young adult fiction style stuff. It's just about a kid that kind of is like not unpopular exactly, but like sort of a goth basically. And it's them walking around recognizing that their parents are like in a relationship that maybe they don't need to be in. There's like a self-help guru that is hired to like come talk at their school who's obviously like weirdly into kids. There's like problems with the church, all this stuff. It's the most basic like teen angst, but like not untrue kind of stuff movie. And that movie was like a huge like resonating point for a lot of people in like millennial age ranges. For like honestly, that's why I related to Twilight, is that kind of hit the sweet spot of years to come out to be sort of Twilighty for a lot of people. Not that Twilight wasn't something I also saw, but like it was like the younger let's look at sad kid ways to be. And they used the song Mad World in it, and it got super, super popular online. Like, Mad World was used in like Dragon Ball Z anime music videos a ton. It was used in everything. And it's an old song, but it became like hugely popular all of a sudden. And that hit just the right amount of time before Gears of War came out. And Gears of War made a super famous video game trailer using Mad World, which I believe was the first big, I think it's a female cover of Mad World. And it's a fine trailer. I want to say maybe it's Gears of War 2. I don't like Gears of War that much, so like I don't give a shit. But the point is that that ad became like the gold standard of video game advertisement. And that has bled into, I believe, everything. I think every ad that exists is now sort of based off of that ad.
That makes sense.
But that's my not thesis, but that's my best guess from everything I've looked at for that style of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously been covers and stuff like that forever, but I think that especially people who grew up with like Twisted Christmas, Weird Al, like all this stuff that was like making covers something that people kind of liked, that Weird Al's Running with Scissors was not that long before Gears of War stuff started in, and Running with Scissors came out around the same time that Donnie Darko came out. And I believe all of that shit was just popular enough to keep it going now, even though I think people like it still, but not like it.
Yeah.
And
I think people like it, but also it's like, it's noticeable every time. Yeah.
If you know of an earlier, more popular example than Donnie Darko and Gears of War, feel free to email me at itsthisweekspodcast, all one word, at gmail.com, because I would love to add it to my research.
We need to know. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, so that was a weird tangent to come off of. The Cat in the Hat starring Mike Myers. The scariest movie I could think of for my night being in control of movies. But it is scary as shit. That movie is a real nightmare. And there's a lot of purple goo. If you're a germaphobe, that movie's extra scary. It's maybe Alec Baldwin's grossest role in terms of physical shit. It's got a lot of like it's got a lot of wink wink adult stuff in it that isn't very wink wink. It's very like, I'm porking your mom kind of stuff. That's like, I don't know if that needs to be there. The Cat in the Hat, like, in-joke adult humor is not. It's all just like, I think I have something in my pants. Like, it's very stupid.
And then, what is it that he does, like, that weird wheeze laugh every time he makes a joke, too? That's, like, a character choice that is made that I hate so much.
The story of Mike Myers that I didn't want to yell over the movie, but stuff that I had actually been looking into because of the Shrek anniversary, other than really enjoying all of the original Shrek illustrations. So the Shrek book that came out like only like 3 years before the movie, I want to say, is great in terms of art. I love the art in it. But it looks nothing like the final Shrek. The original Shrek looks like fucking it looks like a video game from the 80s, like drawn like adventure game. Like Shrek has like a big nose and he's just kind of like, meh, and he looks actually ugly. He's not just like a cartoon ogre. And I really enjoy that. Also, I think Fiona looks like a crazy monster. I guess spoilers. It's good. But one of the things that I learned while looking into that is that Mike Myers came in and did Shrek after they had done a bunch of Shrek with Chris Farley. And that's so for you want to talk about time passing. Chris Farley died and they had to replace him for Shrek. So try to think about when that happened in history, because that's the history of Shrek. And Mike Myers did, it sounds like most of the lines, if not all of them, sort of using the same inflection that Chris Farley used. But Chris Farley was just Chris Farley in his version of the audio. Mm-hmm. And Mike Myers demanded to re-record the audio doing his stupid Scottish accent. And that's why Shrek sounds that way, which might have been a good idea. Like, it might have been a better sounding version of Shrek. I don't know. But, like, that weird Scottish accent he uses in fucking everything, I guess he just loves it. It's like Tom Hanks peeing in movies or something. He has to do a Scottish accent. Yeah. And I guess warning for upcoming pop secrets, Tom Hanks peeing in movies. But look, don't worry about it. The entire personality of vocal Shrek is because of, I guess, Mike Myers' weird obsession with his, I would say,
Scottish accent.
Not the best accent in the world, but he also, if you noticed, used it in Cat in the Hat when they did the cooking show.
Yeah, I did hear it. That was interesting. Yeah, because it is a questionable accent, because when I hear it, I don't think of, oh, that's a Scottish accent. I think of, oh, that is a Shrek accent.
Or that's a Mike Myers, like, weird comedy accent just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done bad British accents that are about that good. I guess he just really likes doing it. I mean, he's rich and famous. I'm sure he does plenty of things that are dumb that he just likes. But in the Cat in the Hat, he uses it during a cooking show scene, which is rough.
It was really really hard to watch. Yeah,
that's when the purple goo comes in. But it did have one of the only jokes that I thought was slightly funny. And it's the joke that they have a big contraption to very messily make very bad looking cupcakes that are just like purple cupcakes. And it's a big machine that, like, things come out and they kind of like move around and squirt into all of the little cupcake trays. And it's a self-contained thing. And then they get it all set up and they're finally like, and now it's time to cook the cupcakes. And the next step is just to put the whole machine into the oven at like the temperature for the amount of time to cook cupcakes. I thought that was a funny joke because that actually feels like a legit satire joke.
Yeah.
Also, I've watched a lot of infomercials and religious broadcasting. My life is kind of a nightmare, as I keep realizing more and more. Anyway, I wish it would turn into something that was useful, but I don't think it ever will, unless you want to know why we have sad music in commercials. So that part was kind of funny to me, and I can't decide if the babysitter was problematic. I think it was fine, but they were always on the cusp of making a lot of like fat jokes in that movie. Also, so I want to know why Alec Baldwin as the like bad wannabe stepdad character was okay with going into an underground Cat in the Hat themed like orgiastic rave that was under the street. Why was he fine with that?
that was just like randomly in one of the little, not newsstand, but like those things. Yeah,
It
I
was
was
it was
curious
like
about
he
that as
showed
well.
up at the beginning of Matrix 2, but they had Cat in the Hat hats on. But they were just
Mhm.
under the town, like their weird cookie cutter town, just having a loud, wet dance party.
Yeah, that part was not really questioned at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. I also was confused. I also don't know why Alec Baldwin did that movie. I don't necessarily think he's above it, but also I just don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, I would love to see his body of work around doing Cat in the Hat, because
Mm.
I feel like it had to be bad movies, right, in order for him to be in that, or was he also
Or
contractually
something.
obligated? Maybe he
Maybe.
didn't want to be in that. Um, God, they had a lot of jokes about fucking those kids' mom, huh? the the family photo that
Yeah.
the Cat in the Hat picks up and then folds out into a fold out, uh, like a centerfold, and then tucks into his pocket for later. Like that was pretty gross.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't suggest anybody watch that movie, but I would also suggest every person on Earth watches that movie just to know why we don't do that. But I also thought that the Grinch movie was unneeded, and this was like sort of a weird, uh, intended to be sequel that the estate of
Hmm.
Dr. Seuss was like, no. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Someone said while we were watching it that after this movie came out, that his estate was like, "We're not doing this
Yeah.
anymore. Like, kill it,
Oh,
please."
this
And
can't
that makes
be.
so much sense.
I would have the exact same opinion. Yes, don't do that anymore.
Please, never again.
Uh,
Yeah. There were a couple of moments in it that genuinely I did find funny, but I am really struggling to remember because the
uh,
rest of it was just so scary.
the car wasn't the worst. There was some car jokes, but there were also
I
some sex
yeah, I
jokes in
feel
the car, which I don't love.
yeah, I feel like I identified a lot with the fish because that is how I felt about the whole entire movie.
Yeah,
Was just that general anxiousness of why is any of this happening?
yeah. Thing one and thing two are the worst.
Oh, oh, I
Uh,
hated that so much.
that was
The
actually maybe the most like nightmarish part of that movie was when thing one and thing two show up. Um,
Yeah, I know that like it actually looked pretty accurate to the drawings, but it seeing that made me realize that the drawings are scary. Like it's a scary model of
yeah.
a thing. Like I don't like it at all.
Also, um, I feel like the boss. It wasn't the Huber Bloob. It was something else that was similar. But the movie starts with a conflict of the mom's boss being very trigger happy on firing people, which is never addressed really. It's just like, isn't that funny? And he's like going to have a very fussy company party at their house, the main family's house, it sounds like,
Yeah.
uh, which includes the necessity of the mom wearing a good dress or she'll get fired. But that whole opening scene of him yelling about people being fired really felt like a reaction to uh, um, Trump, like from the era this was made, which is
Yeah.
also
I could
sort
see
of
that.
a scary reminder in your kids' movie. Um, back when Trump was, I guess, funny.
Just entertainment at one
Yeah.
point, I guess. And now we've gone full circle, and Alec Baldwin is playing Trump on TV.
Yep.
The worst timeline.
I mean, these seeds are good though. That movie's a nightmare. I don't know if I have a ton more to say about it other than, wow.
I think it was Elle Fanning was the little girl. She
Wait,
was
really?
pretty good. Yep.
That must have been around.
One of the Fannings. Pretty sure it was Elle.
Yeah, it would have been at that point. That was probably around the same time she did the new voiceover for Totoro. She did the younger sister, I think.
Oh. Yeah. It probably would have been around that time then.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty good in it. I liked.
Yeah, honestly, child actors being what they are, they picked two child actors that did a fine job. Like, I don't have any complaint. Yeah. Like, I have plenty of complaints with the script and the movie and the characters and everything else, but the kid actors were fine. I didn't realize that was Elle Fanning, though. I don't think I've ever seen an image of Elle Fanning, so... the movie we watched after that, though, which I would describe as if you put Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer through a Halloween PlayStation 1 filter and then made it way hornier. Do you have any thoughts on Spookily the Square Pumpkin?
God. There was a lot of weirdly, like, racially coded pumpkins, I guess. I don't know how to say that. No, wait, they were radishes, right? Was it the radishes that
Are they radishes?
Pretty sure I don't know, but I think they were supposed to be like the trope of like a black backup singer woman kind of
they
thing.
Were the like 3-part quorum to go along with it. That's typically especially in older media just 3 black women. But they like definitely coded them to have like those aspects of like
that felt unnecessary.
So
this was made like this year too, right? This is new, is it? I'm gonna look up actually.
No, I want to say it's 2004, but nobody saw it because I saw it a little while ago on you should look it up because I can't. My phone's definitely gonna die.
Okay.
I believe Spookily came out in 2004, and it's like, it's post Veggie Tales, but it's not good. That's for sure. What are you finding?
Let's see. Oh, 2005.
2005. Okay. So. That is post, I want to say it was early thousands for Bug's Life and late 90s. No, they were the same year. It was like 99 or something for like Bug's Life and Ants. And those make this movie look 1,000 years old. Like, it has the ground textures and tree textures of something that existed when computers were like just like starting to get made. It's like some fucking post-war, like, it's terrible. It honestly does, though, to me look like a budget PS1 game that just got turned into a movie, which is one of the things I like most about it. The only other time I'd ever seen this movie in the past was like back when I can't remember now if it was YouTube or like Billy that I saw it on. I want to say in college, but I thought originally that it was a religious movie. So I saw it when I was looking for like the Cherub Show and Bible Man and all that stuff. partially because I wanted to prove to my friends in college that I knew what the fuck I was talking about when I was saying those things existed, because apparently we're the only people who ever saw Bible Man. But
unfortunate, I guess.
I found by accident that Bible Man has a live counterpart with a different actor that does like stage shows for people. So that's a nightmare that also exists somewhere in the world. And the Bible Man cartoon is also very bad.
Oh my God. Have you
Uh-huh.
I feel like we may have looked into that in a previous podcast, but yeah, that's a real dumpster fire.
Not my Bible Man. My Bible Man is a live action show.
My Bible Man is holds a lightsaber and is screaming and crying in the mud. That's the one that I
The
want.
lightsaber doesn't change. That's always there.
Okay, well that's good. They didn't take that away from me, but I need the mask made out of foam
Yeah.
that doesn't fit his face. That's what I want.
I love the mask. It's just it's the
good.
worst.
So good. And all of the villains, I don't think they did it on purpose, but all of the villains are more interesting than Bible Man.
Oh yeah.
All of the villains are cooler, have cooler outfits, and I want to know their backstory. Bible Man just like they're even in the intro, there's really sorry, going on a Bible Man tangent, but
I definitely approve.
even in the introduction clip, it doesn't say what his struggle is. Like he had it all, fame, wealth, success, but he doesn't it doesn't say why is he screaming and crying, because he is having like some existential crisis, I guess.
You're
And then
just
he
supposed to
finds a
get
Bible
it.
in the mud.
You're a Christian, right?
Yeah, my life was pure agony before I turned to Jesus. That's definitely my experience.
I had a lot of sadness, and then I found Jesus. So
I just writhed around in the rain and in the mud and found a magic Bible.
Yep.
And it all made sense.
All Bibles are magic. That's what you do.
They just bestow you with the magic knowledge and happiness. The Spookly really gave me I mentioned this when we were watching it, but now I can't remember what it's called. I need to look this up. That stupid, weird, like, caterpillar Christian show.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called either.
I'm gonna look it up because it had.
There's a lot of real good conversations for children in that show. I remember that.
Caterpillar.
Also, so the caterpillar had a friend that also turned into a butterfly, if I remember at the end. The conversations they have about pretty much everything are terrible.
Yeah, they're all, and it's animated in a very similar way. And I gotta look up when the.
It's a little grosser. I like those caterpillars less because they also don't change the caterpillar's face when they metamorphose.
That's true. Oh, okay, here we go. I just need. This is the caterpillar voiced by Don Knotts.
Yep, it sure is. Do they have a picture of his friend? Because I like him even less.
The main one. I'm looking for a good. Oh, here's a great cast photo. Yeah, this is good. Okay,
also,
so
what's it actually called?
It's called Hermie and Friends. So
okay.
this is Hermie.
Oh God, it's so fucking gross.
Why did they make their body just so? I don't know how to describe. This was a highlight episode.
Oh,
the one with
fuck.
Buzz Bee.
I hate that bee.
The Elvis bee that's like full of himself, but he learns to be not so self-centered. Yeah.
The whole episode with that fucking bee is him talking about how cool he is, and it's not until like the last minute that he's like, well, maybe other people are okay too. Fucking sucks.
The whole entire episode is spoken in the Elvis weird impersonation, and everything rhymes with B, I think is his thing. Yeah, it was really.
He has a catchphrase. I can't remember his catchphrase, but
I think his catchphrase is just spelling his name.
Okay.
Was B-U-Z. I can't remember.
Is it like fuck. For some reason I have it caught in my head that he says like, and Busby is me, or some weird shit. But he repeats stuff a lot. And I remember seeing that as a kid and hating every second of it, but also knowing it was very important.
Yeah, I'll remember this for later.
I'll remember this terrible show.
Yeah,
that show's still better.
That's like part of the joke that he's a B and he spells everything. So he spells, I don't know. That's
so. Apparently, we had a lot of shared cartoons because we've also talked about Muzzy and stuff like that, which honestly feels like a fever dream. Like half the stuff we've both seen feels like it didn't exist until you said it did too. But I'm curious because I think I brought this up and I don't think you've seen it, but that cherub, like computer animated cherub show that is incredibly racist that was around the same time as some of this stuff.
Do you know what it's called?
Look up TBN Cherub Show. I bet it'll show up. When you see the very badly animated children with wings, you'll know.
Oh, God. This is horrible.
Yeah, that sounds like you found it. You should hold up some of those pictures because that show is one of the worst.
Why is this black baby also blonde?
Because that black baby is the one that has all the problems. All the other white babies are fine, and all of the bad things that happen are used through the black baby to show you how you should be better. And they never talk about race.
Really bad photo, but for everyone, this is the poor black baby.
A little more towards the middle, just to make sure people see that shit. Yeah. Now show them the other baby, because that's what you look at as that's your hero. Baby. Yeah, that's the one that you want. So that show is terrible, and everybody should watch it if they can find it.
Oh, it's called Cherub Wings.
Yeah, Cherub Wings. There we go. I saw a fair amount of that show, and then it turned out my roommate in college and I watched a bunch of that show too. And it's a lot of like black cherub for some reason isn't knowledgeable on something that obviously every Christian knows. And there are 4 cherubs, 3 of them are white. That's important to know. So the odd one out is the black one, and it is always the cherub that has like lapses in knowledge or doesn't know how things work or needs to be educated. And that's like the whole show is educating the black one. It's really gross. And it was oftentimes played right after like the they had a live action show that was kind of like a Captain Kangaroo type thing, but it was a train conductor hanging out with puppets. And it was heavily religious, and it was at like 5 a.m. And the Cherub Show would come on after it. I want to say at like 5:30. Yes, I was in college, and none of this is looking good for the way that my life was lived. I did fine in college, but there was a lot of garbage like that, as well as the sermon the one lady did that was a must watch if I can ever find it, where she talks about putting God's hot word in your mouth for a full hour. She uses that term every minute of that speech. It is terrible. She also talks about how, let's say, biblical womanhood, which we have to look forward to in the Supreme Court, She talks a lot about how women are never happier than when they're taking care of the home for the man they love. And that's like the nicest way she puts stuff. There's a lot of like, if you're not doing the fucking laundry, obviously she's not saying that, but it's a lot of like, if he's coming home and the laundry isn't done and the kids aren't fed, then you're letting God down. It's like, that is
checks out. Yeah.
an hour-long sermon about putting God's hot word in your mouth. It is terrible. And it's done by a woman. You would think that it wouldn't be done by a woman if it were going to be that, but of course it is. Yeah. Also, I have hairpins in my hair, and I'm still getting used to it.
Just to keep it out of the way.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily want it to be in a ponytail. Sometimes I want it to be in more of a thing that I don't have negative connotations with. But the only way for me to do that is to pin it where the shave line is. So still getting used to it. I'm not very good at it yet, but you know, I don't have a lot of practice. So honestly, I don't think we have to say much about Spookly. It's a nightmare. It looks terrible. The moral of the story is if you're at a disadvantage and you try really hard, maybe you'll get an award someday for trying hard.
Maybe your differences will be exploited so that someone in a position of authority above you can benefit from it.
I will say I did notice something new this time, though. My reference for Spookly from the one time I'd seen it was that at the end, when he's saved everybody, I won't spoil it. When he's saved everybody, I guess, the farmer thinks he's cool because he's square and turns him into a jack-o'-lantern, which, upon thinking about it when I was younger-ish, not that long ago, I interpreted that to be like, so it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but instead of getting a job as the ultimate, like, yay, you did it, instead it's you get murdered, like you're carved into like a statue, basically. But the thing I noticed at the end of this is that all of the pumpkins are lit up at the end. So it's slightly you can only really see it when they pull away, and honestly I think it was probably an artistic choice to be like, we should illuminate all of them, which honestly destroys the entire point. But anyway, that movie sucks. It's like 40 minutes long, but it feels like a full-length movie, which I think is great.
It did indeed. It did. I remember being like 30 minutes into it and going, oh my god.
Yeah. There is a spider that desperately wants to fuck a bat in it. And at the end, they do. So that's Spookly. That's everything I care about. There's a lot of, if you think that
wholesome holiday lessons for everyone.
Yes. That movie sucks, but I might rather watch Spookly than Twilight. So I'm going to talk about a vampire movie now. And it's Interview with the Vampire, which I also watched yesterday. So I watched Interview with a Vampire because I realized that I'd only ever seen parts of it. And I get parts of it also confused with, I think, Bram Stoker's Dracula, because I always think about, like, what's his name? Gary Oldman as Dracula with, like, the big hair and stuff. Because, like, there's a lot of trashy sort of 90s and early 2000s Dracula movies that are just... They're not... I don't know. 90s movies in general are often not good, let's say. We will say the same thing when we're in the 30s about every other group of movies. But it's especially noticeable when you go back and see something like Scream, and you're like, oh, they had like a really solid production of this. and then you watch something that's like most movies from the 90s, let's say Spookly is an example of like writing, or Cat in the Hat. And at the end of it, you don't feel like you necessarily saw a movie. You feel like you saw a collection of commercials somebody made that were not good, but they were kind of interesting to see. That honestly, that's why I have a higher opinion now of movies like Batman, Michael Keaton Batman movies than I did when they came out, is because like they're kind of good movies in a like story point to point way. But a lot of movies are just terrible. Watch, if you find it, watch a movie called Crazy Love sometime. God, 90s are bad. Anyway, so Interview with a Vampire is something I was going to read the script for on this, but they talk about quadroons a lot in the early part, and there's a lot of like, he was a slave master, but he was a good slave master kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah,
So I skipped it.
Talking about this.
And then I watched it yesterday, and it turns out the movie skipped it too, even though it was in the script. So they don't do any of that shit. And the only reason why I understood who one of the characters was because I read the script first, which was really weird. I haven't had that experience really before, but one of the slaves is a named character who has a ton of like bits in the script, and they are in like 1.5 scenes total, and they die in the movie as like their only real scene. So that part was different. It's also very homoerotic, which I appreciated. It's like the first third to a half of that movie is a weird pseudo love story between two vampires who become like a father family.
Okay.
And that part's fine. The other thing I didn't realize is that almost every story beat from the overarching storyline of What We Do in Shadows, the series, is from this movie. Which is really weird, because that has come out the last 2 years, the first 2 seasons of What We Do in Shadows, the TV show. And it's about Interview with a Vampire's storyline. And I didn't even realize it.
Interesting.
The last episode of the second season, if people have watched that show, is like literally in that movie. And the last episode of the first season is also in that movie. Like, it's all from that movie. Also, Antonio Banderas as a vampire is good. Brad Pitt as a vampire is weird, but it works. Tom Cruise as a vampire is not especially good, but he is one of the main characters and the last person you see in that movie. So, Merry Christmas on that. But most notably, that movie inspired a ton of like other art and anime and a bunch of other stuff. And also, and weirdly, because of course it's weird and kind of gross, the Kirsten Dunst's character in that, who she has to be in her early teens at the latest in that movie, definitely inspired a lot of like Japanese media. She plays a kid who is turned into a vampire, sort of against the rules, as you find out, maybe, but not really. And she lives forever as a vampire who can't ever like pass like into being a woman. And that's a story point. And they kind of pass over that like she and Brad Pitt are a couple essentially for a lot of that movie. And she's definitely like maybe 11 or 12. And there's a lot of especially vampire media out of Japan that just puts that character in their stuff. Like that specific character is just in it. which of course it is, because they're creeps. Let's say they're no more creeps than we are, but they use their art to talk about creep stuff a lot more than we do in public.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience, because I had seen a lot of bits of that movie, but I think specifically I hadn't seen a lot of the parts that are in the later third of that movie, and that's where a lot of that stuff is. But I would suggest it, actually. It's a weird movie. It doesn't hold up great in terms of its themes, but the movie itself is actually a well-made, well-paced movie. They kill kids. I think they kill dogs. They kill all kinds of stuff in it, which I kind of appreciate. I feel like people do it as shock factor now, but in that, they actually have a story point for it a lot of the time, which I appreciate. Yeah. I don't really appreciate movies that are just like, we killed this thing. What do you think of it? And in this one, it's perfect because it's... I'll give a scene of this movie that I thought was pretty funny. So a big part of the conflict of Brad Pitt's character, and he's like the leading force of this movie, is that he's a vampire, more or less by choice, but like he didn't really know what it meant. And he doesn't want to eat people. So like a big chunk of that movie is about him dealing with the idea that like he doesn't really have an interest in eating people. Like he still thinks it's morally incorrect, so he's like looking at other options. And there's this old rich lady and her like young manservant lover that had killed the husband, and it's just totally side character, like nobody cares, like you don't even really know their name. But there's a really funny scene where it's Tom Cruise, who's like the vampire mentor, kind of, is walking with the young manservant and like doing his vampire stuff. But Brad Pitt is with the like weird old countess with like her two poodles, walking in a part of like the night like estate. And the vampire part with Tom Cruise goes like a normal vampire part. But then the vampire part with Brad Pitt is that he's gonna bite her, and he's like trying to figure out how to like deal with his own guilt of it. And then he's like, hold on, I don't have to do this. And he just like grabs the dogs, he's like, arr! And starts like, and so it's him standing there and she's screaming and he's like drinking this dog puppet and like standing there with like a intense look on his face. And then Tom Cruise is like, what the fuck are you doing? And runs over to him and snaps the old lady's neck. And it's just the funniest violence I've ever seen. Cause it's old violence in movies that looks like puppets and cartoons, but also the idea of it is very funny to me. Of just like, you can't just let this person scream because you want to drink their dogs instead.
I do like that. I like the pacing of that.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
There's a lot of that stuff in that movie, though, that I think is worth watching if you haven't. The romance story with like a very young girl is not why you should watch it, but that exists. It's not explicit, so you know you can kind of get around it, but it's pretty implicit. Like they are very free with sexuality in that movie, which I appreciate, but they're also like there's some chunks of it that are like, maybe you shouldn't equate things like this. Maybe vampires being like very sexually fluid is fine, but maybe vampires being sexually fluid with what is essentially the Japanese like usually seen stereotype of, oh, it's okay, I look like I'm 10, but I'm actually a 1,000-year-old dragon, isn't what I'm really too excited about in media.
Right. So. That is interesting. part about the vampires being kind of like more sexually open and fluid. Is that at all a thing in Twilight? Like, are there any gay vampires in Twilight?
No, Twilight. So let's move on to Twilight. I don't really have anything else to say about Interview with a Vampire, except you should give it a shot. It's not overly scary. There's some like very minor jump scares, but I'm very susceptible to jump scares because I have very sensitive hearing, and it didn't really bother me. Like it was not a big deal. It's instead of the like snap of a jump scare, they do a lot of like swelling jump scares, which I'm fine with.
Okay.
But the so Twilight is fiercely heterosexual, I would say, in everything that I just watched the first movie. I'm planning to rewatch more of it, I guess. Because I was looking and it's like, well, in the second movie, it's all about Jacob and the Vatican. And it's like, okay, I'll watch it. Because that's the stuff I actually remember from watching it before is the dumbass Vatican stuff. But they have a list of problems I have with it. All right. The writing is bad. The writing is really bad.
Yes.
I want to hear what you, because you haven't rewatched it yet, right?
Mm-mm.
I want to hear
the last one.
What you remember of the first movie.
I don't remember anything from the first movie.
What are even like notable visions that come to mind?
I don't know that this is the first movie, but I distinctly remember a character holding a bag of eggs. Is that the first movie?
I don't remember. That doesn't sound familiar.
I promise. Wait, I need to. Oh, I'm gonna look this up and send you the photo because it's important. I'm pretty sure it's the first movie.
You might want to hold it up because my phone might not be on anymore.
Okay. Okay, it's Emmett, the character Emmett, in the cafeteria multiple times. I don't know if it's the same scene, but he's seen just holding a bag of eggs.
The fuck?
For no discernible reason. There are multiple stills with bag of eggs.
Huh. Well, I don't know what to say about that. That does look like it's from the first movie.
Bag of eggs.
What the fuck?
There's so many. I can't remember at all the circumstances surrounding that, but I know like vague plot points, I guess, of the first one. I don't actually think that I've ever seen the second one.
Okay.
What even do I remember? I guess I vaguely remember like the scene of him stopping the car.
Okay, yeah, that actually happened in a slightly different spot than I thought. I was putting two scenes together, but the version that I was putting together in my head made more sense. It is astoundingly bad. I strongly suggest you watch it. It is way funnier than you remember.
I think given our script reads as well, it'll have a whole new...
The script is so good compared to it. It is so much better. It is crazy how bad it is. I was specifically watching with the script in mind, and it was like... every line that is held on to is the worst version of that line. I think me reading that script would be a better movie than that movie is. It's really bad.
Probably. So I want to work through this list of grievances that you have about Twilight.
Okay. So the writing's really bad, and it's really confusing to me because the version of the script I've been reading is one of the final versions of the script. So a lot of this stuff had to have been ad-libbed or changed like on the fly. the beginning that starts in Arizona does happen. I had not remembered that, but
Oh, interesting.
they cut out all the relevant parts. So you remember how in the script it was like making a point that she's not like super familiar with her stepdad, but like she likes her stepdad. He's cool. Uh, it it does a lot of like setup of like her mom and she have conversations at the beginning before they leave about like, you know, kind of being not really like not getting along with the dad, but just not really being super like as familiar with the dad and stuff. And the mom being like bad with technology was like in that beginning scene, like a bunch of
Right.
dumb dialogue. The mom being like kind of into tween like vocabulary, which, you know, kind of runs that double meaning of like she is involved with her daughter, but also she's like sort of a turd. Like all of that general stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning scene is silent and it just has voiceover over it. So they cut out all of the talking parts. And instead,
Oh.
they also cut out at the beginning, they talk about like how they're going to position things to like make sort of a thematic reason behind like Bella being the light for this movie and Edward being the darkness. And they cut that out, but they still have those elements there, but they don't use them. So it's the part where they're talking about like, well, you're leaving the desert and then it becomes this forest. They cut specifically in a way that does not make that clear anymore because they're showing the desert and then they cut to a street shot in the Forks area. So they completely undo all of the like artistry that could have existed and stuff that's already trite, but it's like at least it's something. Also, I I was right in my remembrance. They don't refer to Charlie as her dad like at all in that movie ever.
Yeah.
He's Charlie only. She even in voiceover of like remembered things talks about Charlie. Like what would Charlie think? Or like it's all Charlie. It is crazy on that end too. The the dialogue and the acting from the three vampires that are like the adversarial vampires is even worse than I remembered. The only one I remembered as being really bad was the hunter vampire James, and he's still terrible. But the other two basically don't have lines, and all of their motivations are like nothing. And the one vampire that is like kind of on the side of the like let's just all be nice to each other. Uh, he has like literally one scene in which he really talks at all, and it's for like 2 lines of him saying like James is so cool though. It's really bad. The main part of the movie, though, the Edward and Bella talking to each other parts of the movie are fucking terrible. Like it's as bad as episode 1 or rather episode 2 Star Wars like love talking. It's all like
Oh god.
um they may as well not even be talking to each other. It's really bad. And the bits of jokes and stuff that exist in the dialogue, like 1 or 2 of them exist that are in the script. Most of them don't. Also, the worst parts do make it in. Like, so the mom doesn't talk about her problems with technology, but the technology joke is still in it when they call later on. Like, they still have those jokes that
Nice.
now have no setup. So it's just somebody's mom using weird language and being like, well, you know, it was the phone's fault, like that stuff. But there's no, you haven't heard the mom say anything yet. So, like, there's no indication that that's a character trait. It's just her being weird.
Yeah.
Um, also, it is a little frustrating because the guy who plays Charlie is a decent actor. The guy who plays the Cullen father is a decent actor. Like there are older decent actors in that movie, and all of the younger actors are like looks only, no acting talent whatsoever. I have heard people defend Kristen Stewart's acting in that movie, and there's no defense for it. It's terrible. Same with what's his name? Batman. Who plays Edward Cullen? What's his name?
Robert something.
Yeah, that's definitely Robert something.
See, Robert. Let me get my phone. Gotta look this up. What did I do with it? Oh, here we go. Robert
Pattinson.
Okay, there we go.
So Robert Pattinson has some of the worst line deliveries in that movie of just like, so the scene where he's like, "You're like my own personal brand of heroin," is bad. Like, I remember that being very bad, but I had read the like when she's finally kind of getting him to talk to her because he's past the worst of his blood craze. He talks to her about, like, she asks him like, why are you doing this, or like, why are you around? And he's like, I feel very protective of you. The inflection of it, because I read it in the script and was like, this is a bad line. I saw it in the movie and it's the worst version of it. It is like one of the best scenes between them two, of like actually having a conversation back and forth that means anything, and it's still just the worst.
Is it just very like what's his delivery like? Just very like throwaway.
Do you remember being in English classes in the end of high school and reading plays like as a class?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Every single line from the younger cast sounds like that.
Oh no.
That's the only thing I could think of, is them like looking off camera to their lines being held up and being like, as if you could run. Like, it's also, that scene continues to be one of the funniest, worst scenes of all time, when he's running around in the forest being like, as if you could fight me off, and then he pulls a root out from a little hill next to them under, just throws it against a rock, and it just like it hits the rock and falls down. It's terribly made. Like, all of the scenes are like on what looks to be expensive film with good lighting, with a lot of like very attractive 20-somethings with like good wardrobe, and their lines are just the worst. And I imagine they get a little better later. One of the only people who acts at all in this movie, and it's briefly, is the angry sister of the Cullen family. And I think it's because all she has to do is act annoyed when she does her lines. But that actually works. Like, she's able to pull that off. But they also picked a setting and a person who, for him being the cold one, the Edward character is played in that as though he's like a tough guy, and absolutely none of the scenes, no matter how mean he's trying to look tough. He's always like weird, very prissy, like kind of an angry, but like, I don't know. It's like a lot of people are not built to be threatening, and he isn't at all. Even fucking weird egg boy, like, he's probably the thickest of the vampires, and he does not seem like he's threatening in the least. And like, no offense to Shark Boy and Lava Girl, they did what they could with the movies. Shark Boy, when having to deliver lines, while he's one of the best of the younger cast, his first like 3 scenes of like 5 total, he's not good at all.
Aww.
Like his first two scenes especially, mostly talking about Bella and her car that he helped make or like rebuild the engine for. He talks like he's read the script for the first time that day. It's really unimpressive, let's say. So please watch it. It's on Hulu. Anybody out there who wants to see how these very successful movies look, I suggest it because they're not good at all.
I definitely need to rewatch the first one and the second one at least so that I can remember.
If you watch the first two for our, I'm going to say next podcast 51 is probably still going to be pretty Halloween-y. If you watch the first two, if you find a way to make time for that, I'll watch the second one. Just let me know, because I would love to talk about how bad they are and have reference for it. So also, besides the Charlie shit, I have a big note on here that just says worse than the script. So this is just a story issue. When you finally start having Bella and Edward talk, one of the first things that they talk about outside of school is that he climbs through her window without warning, and she has had nightmares of him like staring at her while she sleeps.
Right.
And he has been standing in her room watching her sleep since she got there. So that's also something that she finds very romantic, and they hang out all night and talk about stuff. That's how it starts, is him saying like, yeah, I've been standing here every night. Also, their love story starts up over the course of like a day. They go from being actively like her kind of hating him to them being like in a full romantic relationship.
Sounds right.
Also,
sounds like the last Star Wars movie.
I still haven't watched the last Star Wars movie. So there is a set of scenes that I really love now that I had forgotten about, and it is Bella using the internet. And I think there should be an entire movie about Bella using the internet. So they clearly had graphic designers and animators and stuff work together to make the most dynamic, just a screen of like web crawler they could possibly make, in which you're following the cursor across like a search bar, and the camera's just like dun, 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 and then it like gets to where it's going, and it like pulls out a little bit and like drops down stuff, and it's like Port Orchard. Like for Seattle people, that's very funny to have like a big wind up and this like Port Orchard. Exciting. And Port Orchard is where a lot of like Navy people hang out because it's kind of close to the base, and it's not interesting. But there's a bookstore that I don't think is a real bookstore in Port Orchard where she has to go to get a. That's the only place she can go to get a book about the local folklore, I guess. As opposed to what it would really be, which is finding like old racist cookbooks or something. So that internet scene is great of her like looking that stuff up. When she's gotten the book, the entire point of getting the book, she should have just used the internet. The book says that stuff about the Cold One. And the Cold One is it's like Nick doesn't think I can see him outside of my eye.
I'm trying to alert you to the fact that your food is available.
No, it won't be long. Food has arrived. I got your billing information. I just my phone's gonna die soon. So the book that she gets about folklore says that stuff that I read at the top of the podcast about just like finding the Cold One. And in the movie it's even better because she doesn't just go on and like search for this like one creature, they have to make it dynamic. She can't just be looking at a book, because that's not really like, it's not an actual monster movie where they would show like all these illustrations and things normally.
Right.
She's looking through the internet, and she's looking at like a database of like local folklore, and the pictures they show are all different things. But the website she's on, she's looking for the like the attributes of the things that are described, like cold skin and unnaturally fast. The website is just also, this is just a me thing, I love having fake animated pointers moving around, because it never moves like something.
That's always good.
So it's a website that I guess is just a website about the features she's looking for, which is crazy. And it's got like a little world map, and then it just says the names of different areas around the world, and it's her moving through and clicking on each one, and it brings up what that version of the vampire would be. So it's like a website that could never exist unless I make it on part of our website. And it's just a website about, well, did you search for cold skin and really fast and drinks blood? Well, here's a list of regions that you can look up. And all of the images, like in the script, they're talking about like, oh, dark and sexy. Every image in that is like a monster with like biting somebody, but it's like, it's all just like weird fake folklore art. And I found it really amusing, and like I would love to watch a movie about her just surfing the fake internet. But that was the best scene in the movie. And then another good scene that is one of the funniest scenes in the movie is they're talking to each other while they're like, I don't know where they are. I want to say they're walking through like a butterfly house or something weird on a school field trip. Or maybe just a garden. They're on a school field trip, and then they walk back to where two buses are. One bus the Cullens rode in on, the other bus Bella rode in on with her weird group of people.
Okay.
They're standing at buses who clearly don't have drivers in them. Like they're going to load onto buses without the rest of the school, I guess. They act like there's drivers on them, but like you don't see anybody sitting in the seat. And Edward and Bella are having an argument because she won't give up on asking him about the weird shit that he did when he stopped the car. I'll mention that in a second because I mixed two scenes together. And it's them standing in front of the bus, and the other Cullens come up and they're like, oh, is she going to ride with us? And like trying to be friendly. And then he goes, no, bus is full. And then he hits the bus door like, open up. Like, it is the funniest because he's treating it like his buddy just drove up in the bus, and he's like gonna have him open up and like get on the bus, but like the bus is empty and it doesn't appear that anybody's driving it, and he's also treating it like he's getting into like a car that showed up with his driver. I find that to be very funny writing. I don't think any of it was intentional, but I love it. But the scene where he blocks the car, I had mixed up. I thought that, and I realized where it totally couldn't be now. But so there's a scene after Bella goes to the bookstore where a bunch of dudes, just random dudes, show up and are like acting like they're gonna attack her, or like, I guess it's just a roving gang of college-age rapists. Like, that's how they're treating it. So they're like, where are you going? And they're, like, surrounding her, and, like, they're going to, like, drag her off somewhere, I guess. And Edward pulls up in his car and, like, threatens them and saves her, and then they go eat dinner. Or he watches her eat dinner because he doesn't eat. And then... that's like the start of the relationship, basically, and he yells about how he should have killed them all because of the things they were thinking, because he reads minds. Also, very good point. I believe Interview with a Vampire is the first time that vampires are said to have different magic abilities just at random.
Okay.
That is a theme in Twilight, that all of the vampires have different magic abilities at random.
Yeah.
I don't think that existed before Interview with a Vampire, and the idea of Twilight trying to use Interview with a Vampire as the basis for its vampires is really weird to me. Also, I don't know how I ended up watching those two movies next to each other, except for sort of chance, but they definitely pulled stuff from that. Also, the way that they
It's
characterize...
good to have a basis.
Sure, yeah. Also, if that's true, they took the basis of the creepiest part of Interview with a Vampire and just aged them up, so it's like not illegal.
Except for, well, actually, I would posit that Twilight is a little bit creepier because it's like your baby is pledged to this full-grown man territory. Well, actually, I don't know if that's creepier. I don't know. They're both bad.
So the Renesmee shit at the end is probably the creepiest thing in all of those vampire things in that setting. But the version of it with Interview with a Vampire with Kirsten Dunst, she'll never get older, ever. So she will always be like 11.
Right.
And her main dilemma is that she wants to be fully grown because that's the life she wants to live. But instead, her and like 30-year-old Brad Pitt are a couple for like 50 years or something. Like from like post-revolution France or whatever until like modern day-ish. It's very gross, but that's what Twilight is. They just gave them like 5 extra years so that it wasn't so creepy, but like it's the same thing. Also, Edward's from like, I don't know, like the 1700s or something. So like he's an old man. What you're deciding on in this movie is, are you team old man and teenager, or are you team dog and teenager? Like, that's your decision. Do you like weird, creepy, like robbing the cradle shit, or do you like bestiality? Because you have 2 options apparently, and those are them. But it's okay because the bestiality option goes to the baby.
Oh no.
Anyway, those movies are gross, but very funny, and everyone should watch Twilight. That's my closing statement on Twilight. We talked a lot about some dumb shit today.
I think that's very fitting for a very spooky Halloween episode.
Spooky Halloween.
There's nothing spookier than pedophile werewolves.
Yeah.
And vampires.
Welcome to Vampire QAnon.
Vampire Pizzagate.
Well, I hope that's all I have to say. Actually, did you cover your topics? Because we're running out of time.
I covered my first one. I think I will leave my second one to another time when we have more time to discuss.
Maybe our second Halloween episode next week we can talk about it. I'll touch on mine real quick because it's not a big story. Quibi is dead. Very exciting. They were anti-union and trying to skirt having regulations, so I'm glad they died. I'm sorry to all the artists that are tied up in it, but the funniest thing, and this will kind of be a parting note, I guess. The head of it, Katzenberger, I believe, rich man, he sent out an email, I guess, telling everybody like, "Oh, sorry, we're closing," and then he said, "Why don't you go listen to this song from the Trolls movie soundtrack? That'll pick up your spirits." That was his email.
The Justin Timberlake one?
Uh-huh. The first Trolls movie. It was like the movie about picking yourself back up again.
That's so embarrassing.
He told people to listen to that as his like severance email. So I actually changed my mind. I love it. Okay, I can't with any of this shit.
Clap along if you feel. Wait, that's not even the right song. That's a different song. Dang it! It's all the same. Doesn't matter.
I watched that movie under duress. I don't remember shit.
Yeah. Oh wait, I think that is the. I know it's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. It does not matter.
Huh. I think next week, join us to find out more of what Madison knows about the Trolls movies.
Maybe I will have a different wig to discuss the Troll movie. This was not one of my topics, but this is important, and I'll probably bring it up again next week so that we can discuss it in depth. But Borat 2, or the second Borat, is out, and it is incredibly good and funny. So, yeah, it's possibly funnier than the first one.
How's that Giuliani?
Oh, it's great. You know, it's very good.
So it was just a mistake. That wasn't actually. He wasn't doing anything weird.
Definitely not creepy, gross, incredibly pervy at all. No, totally just tucking in your shirt.
Cool,
the normal way, like anyone does, laying down on a bed. Anyway.
Hey, you know, when I have to tuck in my shirt, I lay down on a bed, I pull the bottom of the shirt down around my penis, and then if I finish, I finish. I guess that's just how it works.
That's just how it goes sometimes. Yep. So more on that next week, I guess.
Or on that next week, when we come back for more Halloween. I probably won't be in costume, at least not like this. I'm gonna shave, I think, for my Halloween day stuff. So that could be terrible. We'll see. I'll probably look 12.
That's fine. At least you have a makeup marker. You can always like fill in some.
Yeah, actually, that'd be perfect.
Some solid like mustache action or something.
Yeah. I bet you're excited to not have that wig on.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's getting pretty bad. All
right.
Well, until next week, and be gone, thoughts.
Bejabbers. Biblical woman.